is you've gone way back in time to some of these ancient philosophies that we weren't the first people to think about well-being on this planet.
Yeah.
Other people have thought about it. And one in particular has resonated with me. It's the Roman philosophy around Stoicism.
Yeah.
So I guess being Stoic has got quite a bad rap because Stoicism with a small s sounds like the exact opposite of what you want to do with mental health, but Stoicism with a capital S is different. Do you tell me where you're going with that and what that's all about?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think people really need to understand the difference between small s Stoic and big S. So small s Stoic tends to have that non-emotional stiff upper lip thing, right? And it came off Stoicism and a misunderstanding of Stoicism. So Stoicism, it's actually an ancient Greek philosophy that was then taken on by the Romans. And so you've had the famous Stoic philosophers were either Greek or Roman, right? And it actually started back. You can trace the origins of Stoicism all the way back to Socrates, who wasn't a Stoic himself, but actually a lot of the principles of the Stoics came from the teachings of Socrates. And what a lot of people don't realize, Socrates was actually a military guy. So back in those times, most young men joined the military. They did martial arts training. And so a lot of the foundational philosophy comes from that military martial arts stuff, right? But the Stoics, they had to deal with issues that were way beyond what we had to deal with, right? And Stoicism actually comes from, it basically roughly translates as street philosophy. And so they used to practice it on the agora, which is kind of like the marketplace. And it's a bit like, I don't know if anybody's ever seen Monty Python and the Life of Brian, when he sort of falls off the thing and he ends up standing on one of the preachers thing and everybody's listening to him. And he then tries to run away, but it was street philosophy. So that was the first, because to that point, the philosophers were kind of upper echelons of society and they talked to themselves, whereas the Stoics said, no, we're actually going to go out and talk on the street to people. And so their whole thing was how do we deal with life's challenges? And so when you look back at it, there is so much wisdom. And the thing when I was digging into it, and it was an insight I got from a guy called Donald Robertson, who's written the book How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, and is and it's a brilliant book, by the way. He's a psychotherapist, but also has a degree in philosophy. So he's a pure philosopher, but also psychotherapist. And I had said to him, there seems to be a lot of Stoic philosophy in CBT. And he said, that's because Ellis and Beck, who started cognitive behavior therapy, he said they studied Stoic philosophy, but they just didn't credit it. So they were actually stealing a lot of Stoic philosophy principles to create cognitive behavior therapy, which we know is that probably the most successful talk therapy for anxiety and depression. Sleep, if you look at the gold standard intervention for sleep, is actually CBTI. So CBT for insomnia. Then you have acceptance commitment therapy, which is a sub-branch of CBT, which is really successful treatment for anxiety and depression. And it has
that's really interesting. And I've become a big fan of ACT, or acceptance commitment therapy, in the last several months, and I've been really drawing the comparisons with Stoic philosophy. So that's interesting to hear that.
Yeah. So it has its roots in it, because I had noticed all of this and the reason I knew, so I had done a course in CBT, and my wife Carly is qualified in ACT. And the other thing, she's also qualified in Japanese psychology, and particularly Morita therapy, Shomen Morita. And
that's similar again, right?
It is amazing, the similarities. And the other one is logotherapy by Viktor Frankl. And when I was talking to Donna Robertson, I said, for Viktor Frankl, because I've seen the strong links, and I remember reading his book as a 17-year-old, and had a pretty profound effect on me. And I have noticed strong overlaps between Stoicism, logotherapy from Frankl, CBT, ACT, and Japanese psychology. And I actually thought that Frankl would have studied the Stoic philosophers, and Donna Robinson said he has dug into this, and as far as he can tell, he didn't, and so he came up with this independently, right?
Well, that's sort of cool, right?
It is really cool, and you know, a lot of his logotherapy was formed in Auschwitz, when he was a prisoner of war in Auschwitz, and it's about really going through that adversity and thinking about how to condition the mind to deal with adversity. And that's what the Stoics were all about, is conditioning the mind and the body to be able to deal with whatever life will throw at you.